Hi, my name is Veronica, and this is my tech set presentation for my List 4343 class. A general overview over this lesson or unit falls under the theme of art to express emotions. A lot of the content and the texts that are featured in this presentation are geared more for elementary level and primarily 4th or 5th grade level. The main goal of this theme is to be able to encourage students to create artwork that they are proud of. The whole idea is to challenge the notion that you, in order for you to be a good artist, you have to have technical skill. Instead, we want students to feel empowered and encouraged to be able to create with whatever skill they come with whatever tools they are able to, and still feel like they are creating and are being a part of the art world. Additionally, we want to be able to have students learn how to use art as a means of expression and also develop the skill to read works of varying artists by identifying the elements of art and how the artists use these elements throughout different mediums. The content area standards for this lesson starts with students will be able to describe how the elements are used to express emotion. Students will be able to create work that conveys emotion. Students will compare and contrast the works of various artists and make connection to their own life. Students will be able to express their ideas in written or oral form. The first set of texts, which will be our anchor text, will be Van Gogh's The Yellow House and Claude Monet's Weeping Willow. These works of art were of important locations that had an emotional connection to the artists themselves. They used plenty of the artistic elements to convey these different emotions. In Van Gogh's piece, he uses the yellow to symbolize happiness, while Monet uses textures and colors to convey a more complex set of emotions. The works of art can be used as a way of starting class discussion using compare and contrasting techniques of how the different colors are used or different methods are used in the works to convey different emotions or feelings. Additionally, the discussions can help students express ideas and make personal connections to the lives of the artist and be able to reinforce that in their own work. In order for these discussions to work, students will need to have prior knowledge of the different colors, different lists of emotions, and a little bit of information of the Impressionist movement as well. And they also need to learn elements of art like texture and color. Starting with these texts are a great way of demonstrating how the artists approach art making and using their own life experiences to create art. Our second text set is Tate Kids, Who is Vincent van Gogh? In their Explore section on the tatekids.org website, Tate Kids has an article about Van Gogh, his life and work, as well as interactive questions to keep students engaged. The article is also written in an appropriate readability level for elementary age students, particularly in the upper elementary age range. This will help students learn more about the artist behind the work and possible influences that allows for a deeper understanding of how the artist uses their personal life experiences in creation about their artwork. This could also be a good resource for students to read through the website during free time and can be allowed to go through some of the quizzes and games on the website on Van Gogh to be able to reinforce some of the knowledge learned or make connections of their own. Another text set that can be used is the Yellow House photograph. This photograph is of the building that Van Gogh's Yellow House was inspired by. Seeing a real-life photograph allows students to make the connections between real life and the choices Van Gogh made while making his Yellow House painting. In a classroom setting, the photograph can be used as a reference for students to create their own version in their own choice of color, or it could be used to prompt a discussion about how Van Gogh was able to use the elements to recreate his own piece. What colors did he use? How did he use the colors? Does it look realistic? Does it look not realistic? What are some of the differences between the real-life photograph and the painted version of Van Gogh's? The next text set that can be used towards this lesson unit is a video of a virtual tour of Monet's garden. This video has no commentary, and it shows all of the different flowers in the garden, as well as the pond and bridge that are in the Giverny garden of Monet's. The brevity of the video also allows to maintain student engagement, and the no commentary part of the video makes it a simple watch and not overwhelming with an abundance of information. This video can be used as discussion for students to talk about what they see and discuss any emotions that they might think of when looking at the garden. Viewing the video also allows students to make connections between real life and the choices made by Monet in recreating the garden in his painting, like the heavy texture used in the Weeping Willow piece. Another Tate Kids resource is the article on Who is Claude Monet. Like the Van Gogh blog, Tate Kids also has an article about Claude Monet with interactive questions and addresses the movement he was recognized for, Impressionism. The article is also appropriate for elementary reading level as well. At the end of the article, there's also a video that goes into further detail about Monet and Impressionism that does a very good job of explaining the terms and the context of Monet's life. This video will also allow students to learn more about Monet and the Impressionist movement, but it will also help students make connections and hear how the vocabulary words are used in context. This would be used as a resource for students to read through the website during free time and can be allowed to go through some of the quizzes and games or puzzles that are available on the website as well. However, the video at the end of the article would be used in a class lecture. Our final text set is a more contemporary take on our theme of art used to express emotion. In this video, we have Marina Abramovich's The Artist is Present exhibition. Marina Abramovich is a contemporary performance artist. In The Artist is Present, Marina sits in a chair and invites the audience to sit across from her to have an experience. As a video with no spoken dialogue, the video is not overwhelming with information and leaves much room for interpretation, allowing the viewer to include their own personal opinions. This allows for students to make personal connections and share personal opinions about what they think of the performance. Primarily, this video could function to challenge students to ask questions like, what is art? What is good art? Why or why not? Is this good art? Why or why not? There are also a range of emotions expressed by the audience within the video that could be addressed in a class discussion. This video also helps students learn that art can also be made without having to draw or paint. Art can also be made using performance, using other people, and really helps students be able to understand in a different perspective how viewers can react emotionally to our own artwork. I've also included some optional or alternative text sets that could be used in this lesson unit for this theme. It could replace some of the other text sets mentioned before, or they could be added towards the lesson or unit to kind of reinforce some of the ideas that we talked about. One of these text sets is a small clip from a show called Doctor Who, for those who don't know about it, which shows a scene in which Van Gogh is brought from the past into the future and was shown an exhibition of his. Now, when learning about Van Gogh, you realize that he was striving to become a very popular artist, and unfortunately, before passing away, Van Gogh was never able to really accomplish this goal of his. However, his goal was accomplished after he passed away years later in the future, and now we know Van Gogh to be a very popular and famous Impressionist artist, but during his time, the way he perceived it was probably that nobody knew him. And so I wanted to add this clip to kind of, bring a contemporary take or kind of a show of what it would be like if Van Gogh came into the future and saw his own artwork, and how he would react to seeing his artwork on display and how people talked about his artwork. And this could be used as a way to kind of encourage students, like, we may think our work is not noticeable right now, but maybe in the future, if we could travel in time to the future to see what our artwork and how our artwork would impact future generations or people in the future, then maybe we shouldn't feel so bad about where we are at now with our artwork, because maybe in the future it could be one of the most popular pieces. And so I thought it was a good take to be able to include this into the lesson, and it could be used as just an additional resource. It could be used throughout the lecture. Maybe it could be presented during a lecture and have students talk about the video first and then kind of introduce those ideas and concepts. Students can talk about what they're noticing, what they think, and give their own opinions and ideas about what they're viewing, and then give the objectives or goals from the video. Other resources that I also included were books for lower elementary students. Because the lesson was geared for elementary in the upper level elementary, I thought I could also include some resources that could also function better for lower elementary. The first book is Camille and the Sunflowers, and it's a children's book that just talks about Van Gogh and Camille and the paintings that he created, and just a cute little story that just focuses on Van Gogh's sunflower paintings and Camille's being inspired by Van Gogh. And the second one is The Magical Garden of Claude Monet, which is a very similar take as well, talking about visiting the garden and just talking about the garden. And I feel like these books could serve for lower elementary, where they wouldn't serve for upper elementary, like 4th and 5th graders. 4th and 5th graders are heading into more of middle school in the next couple of years, so they probably feel like reading books like these is probably too childish, even though we probably see them as, these little babies. But a lot of the times they might lose interest or feel like they're being babied a little too much if we read books like this, which is why the Tate Kids website is a good resource for upper elementary, because they can go and read at their own pace. They have more autonomy with how they're reading and what they're clicking and how they're engaging, but they're also reading content that is understandable for their age level. But we can use these books in reading circles for lower elementary, like kinder through 2nd and 3rd grade, and they can form reading circles, read through the books, they can see the pictures, they can answer questions, it could be a group discussion, and just kind of get them excited for learning and hearing the terms that you will talk about in the lessons. So I thought these were good resources for lower elementary. Some of the literacy strategies and reading and writing activities that would be included in this lesson. The first is the art making activity. So at the end of a lesson or unit, students can put into practice what was learned from the lessons using the vocabulary terms and describing work and process. Some of the major assignment, or instead of tests, students can be tested by creating a drawing or a painting of an object or a location of their choice, and use a color of their choice to convey an emotion. So you would guide students into choosing locations or objects, and being able to choose a color that they correlate with an emotion. But this is how students would be tested for that knowledge. Now, the texts that were presented in the presentation would help form those personal connections and kind of be that formative content to reinforce the vocabulary terms, to get deeper understanding of the lesson content, and eventually be able to apply it into their own work. Some of the disciplinary and reading and writing activities would include the class discussions. Students can talk amongst each other, they can do it in groups, they can do it as an entire class, but basically they would discuss the video content answer questions about what is art, what makes art, answer questions about what colors convey certain emotion. Does the way that I draw a color, the textures, does it have anything to do with emotions and feelings? All of that stuff. Another thing that we can do is vocabulary checks, where you introduce a new vocabulary term, you have students repeat the vocabulary term, and you can have students engage with the vocabulary term in fun ways. They can repeat it in silly voices. You can add music to the vocabulary. But basically, you would take a moment to have students be able to understand new vocabulary terms that are being introduced, or also test student knowledge on vocabulary terms that they might not know. And so you can always just do a double checks on making sure that students are understanding the terms that are being used in the lessons. The online interactive quizzes and games are also another disciplinary activity for the students. They're able to work on their own pace, and this can be done during free time. They complete the quizzes, play the games, and make it a fun way of them being able to test themselves on knowledge and content. And the final one is sketchbook, brainstorming, and notes. So students throughout the lesson, throughout the readings, can be allowed to have a sketchbook that they doodle in. They color in their ideas. They write down ideas. They anything goes with the sketchbook, because it's their way of processing information, and you can encourage them to write down whatever it is that they want, draw whatever they feel like they should be drawing in based on the lessons, and just kind of encourage them to make it their own, make the lesson their own, and encourage, the use of colors, the use of different media, and being able to write down notes as well. Some additional ones that I didn't include were also critiques, group critiques, and also exit tickets, where they write on a note card some of the things that they learned, or they fill in the blank on a note card their artist statement on why they made the choices that they made in creating their artwork. But overall, that is the TechSet presentation that I have for this theme in lesson unit for using art to convey emotions. And here are the resources for some of the content used in the presentation. And thank you so much for watching.